And looking here, our first major contract decision will be decided here shortly. But today is the first day of free agency. This is the new system that the SDS team added into the game. It is completely new. It's very similar to the draft where you have 3 people to the board and kind of go through it that way and just kind of figure out who you want. You can see here, you can have 3 different guys. You'll get a different boost to the interest depending on where you are in your priority. I'm sure a bunch of you already knows how to do this, so we're not going to explain it too in depth, but it is a pretty new system. It's very cool. We have $64.48 million to spend. We're probably not going to spend all that. We want to build out our roster. We do have 7 open spots in our 40 man, so we have some room to make some moves, but I don't want to go, too big and break the bank. But this is a perfect time to describe how we're going to do free agency this year and how we're going to manage it, because again, we don't want to go and spend $100 million this year. We're not the Yankees. We're not the Dodgers. We're a mid-America team. We don't have too much investment behind us. We're going into our 2nd season, so we're going to try to play it cheap ball. I don't want to say money ball like the A's, because it's not really that. We're not going to, spend $60 million. We're still trying to break 120 million, but we have to be smart about our money. Let's go ahead and see what we're going to do. So you can see our budget here. Right now, we are spending $65 or so million. We have a budget of $160 million. Break it into kind of 2 sections. So our first section is going to be the rebuilding, the expansion team phase, and that is going to be as follows. We are only going to be spending whatever our revenue is for the year. So right now it's $160 million per year until we make the playoffs. Once we make the playoffs, we will unlock the rest of our revenue and we'll build from there. So another limit to this free agency is, again, before we make the playoffs, we're only going to be able to sign guys that are 83 overall and below. And then after we can unlock, we're going to unlock 88 overall and below. But for now, for the next few seasons until we make the playoffs, we're going to unlock an 83 and below overall players. It doesn't matter how old they are, their ability, their potential, anything like that. Just 83 and below. I just don't feel as a new team, the new guys on the block, to really go in. We've talked to the front office. They want to spend, but they don't want to spend too fast. They don't want to try to burn out quick, burn bright and fast. They want to slow burn, build up the team, build the roots, get some draft picks, guys that are going to be here for a long time, and build that way. They do want to add some big faces, big names down the road. But for the first few seasons, they want to see the product build on the field, maybe get that new ballpark that's been introduced in 2026 season, and build with draft picks that way. So let's go ahead and get right into it and see who we can offer and see how we can build this roster out. So you can see here the top 150 free agents are on the board. They're not necessarily broken down by overall directly. You can see Dylan Cease is the 4th, but he's not the 4th highest rated. That'd be Framber Valdez. It blends, age, how much they're asking, kind of what they've done in the last few years, and kind of how that is. So they build that in, they kind of calculate a score, and they regurgitate them onto the top 150 list. You can also see that there's a ton of big names here. You can see Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who actually just signed for like $32.5 million per year, a 14-year contract or 13-year contract for $500 million. So he just signed. So he may be asking for maybe a little bit of a discount on the game than in real life. We're going to go through here and kind of identify who we want. But first, we got to set out kind of the parameters of who we want to recruit and who we want to look after in our free agency outlook. So the first thing you can do is select 3 positions, similar to kind of how you do your trade board that you want to build up. For us, I don't really want to build up anybody in the middle of the infield. We already have 2 young players there. And then also starting pitching, we did really well in the draft with building guys there. And we also have a few pieces already on the block that we're going to build through. So basically this middle infield and the pitcher and even the catcher, we're not going to really look after. I think what we need is possibly a big reliever to come out of the bullpen. We already had a good reliever base this year, but I think we can improve a lot there. Definitely first base is going to be another big point that we want to improve. And then also I want to bring in a big center fielder, maybe not a big center fielder. Obviously we have the limits until we make the playoffs, but another good player that we can kind of improve there. I think those 3 positions would really just even push us a little bit further into that wild card spot. And then another thing that is new this year, you can select up to 2 team needs. So the first thing is going to be power, man. We need power. We're what, like top or bottom 10 in the league in power this year. So we definitely need power. But at the same time, I think we need contact. We also need contact. Our average was abysmal. We don't need speed. We really have pretty good splits between left and right-handed batters. I think we have a couple switch hitters in the lineup, so that's really good. Our defense honestly wasn't that bad. We had 2 almost Gold Glove winners which is really good. Again, pitching, I don't really foresee us having too much concern. Obviously, it's not going to be extraordinary. We may sign a starting pitcher, but I don't. We're not going to be, that's not going to be on the top of our priority list. We need hitting. We need to hit homers. We need to score runs. That is what we do. We had a really good reliever ERA this year, so we're going to focus mostly on hitting this cycle around. And the first thing we're going to do is going to be the first baseman. We're going to try to backfill him, and I think Josh Naylor fits perfectly into our scheme. It doesn't say he's very good contact or power, but I mean 16 homers with a 259 batting average. Again, not the greatest, but I think he would prosper here as a lefty in Nashville. He's 81 overall, so below the threshold. He's very good at fielding. He's progressing very well. His potential's B. He's above that 6 MLB service time threshold. He has a couple quirks. He's a homebody. He's a night player, dead red, so he hits fastballs well. He's a rally monkey and a situational hitter, so I think all of those will play very well. Contact versus righties, great. Lefties could use some work. Power versus righties, also very good. Lefties isn't bad as well. His clutch is there at 82. I think he'd be a very good 3 or 4 hitter for us. So he's going to be our very first person, our top priority in signing this offseason. Our second player we're going to go for is Michael Conforto. A little bit of an odd choice. He's not a center fielder per se, but we could always use a little bit of work in left field. We have Blanco there right now, but an improvement there wouldn't be too bad. The biggest look for me is going to be his .312 batting average this season in only 34 games. His limited exposure this year is a little bit of a concern, but I think that .312 average with a .918 OPS is more than exceptional. He didn't hit for too crazy power, 8 homers, but again, that was only 34 games. So I think it's going to be very good. He should be a cheaper add. He's 33, probably on his back end of his career, but I think for a 2 or 3 year deal like he's requesting, I think he would slot in perfect, and he's going to be the second guy we're going to try to get this year in the offseason. And then the third player we're going to add is actually a guy we offered, Josh Stalmont. He didn't like our contract earlier, so we're going to add him, see if we can get him quickly. We already have the ability to offer a contract, so we're going to go ahead and offer him one, and then we'll see if we can open that spot up and add another player next week. And coming up, Josh Stalmont will re-sign for 1 year, $5.57 million. He had a great season. I think it was below a 3 ERA. It opens up another spot for us to go after another reliever. I think we need probably one top guy to see if we can get and see if they can improve that bullpen. But I'm glad he's back. He looked to be very good. So hopefully he can keep that going into next season. And one of the first major moves this offseason is Devin Williams is headed to the Phillies. The Phillies are reloading, man. They are absolutely insane. They're going to have another nice bullpen after having like a good bullpen and a starting rotation for the last like 5 or 6 years. So he'll head there for $13.1 million per year. And then the next move is going to be the 30-year-old Ranger Suarez is headed to the Mets. They paid big money for him, $29 million a year for the next 5 seasons. A big payday for Suarez. And one of the better moves of the offseason for us, Mark Cochran has accepted our 4-year deal to be the manager of the Stars. So we have finally locked down our manager after so much time and trying. We're able to lock down the head man on the team. And coming to the contract decision, Caratini will come back. So that 2 years with a little bit above $7.3 million per year will do it for us. He was only looking for 1 year for $6.9. But I think these next 2 seasons will be good for him while we kind of bring in Caro up to the MLB ranks. And another addition, Framber Valdez will stay with the Astros. He's been dominant the last few seasons. Last year, his ERA kind of bloomed. He will stay with him for $28.4 million over the next 3 seasons. He's a dominant pitcher, and they got a good one for $85 million. And looking here, our first major contract decision will be decided here shortly, and we will be inking a deal with Josh Naylor, the 16th ranked free agent this cycle for 7 years, $14 million per year. And I am super excited about that. He jumps to immediately be our best player on our roster. The 28-year-old first baseman has played for the Guardians the last few seasons, after having stints with Toronto and San Diego. He has above 6 years of service time. I think he's going to fit in well. Last year, he was able to bat right under 260, so not too impressive, but he did have above a 700 OPS. And if he can get back to those 2023 numbers where he was at an OPS above 840, I think he will be very, very good for us. So hopefully he will slot in well in Nashville. I'm really excited about adding him here. He's going to be the first baseman of the future. One of our cornerstones, one of our veterans in a few years that hopefully can lead us to a few playoff wins here and there and continue to build our roster out from there. And coming up to Conforto's decision, he will join the team. That $12 million deal got him to come to Nashville, and that will be our left fielder for the next 2 seasons. Like I was mentioning earlier, he's not a long-term player in our playbook, but I think that he is going to be a good fill-in for the next few seasons while we develop some of our younger players. Maybe draft, maybe trade for another outfielder that can fill in for the left field slot. But with him at the helm as our day-to-day player, I think we'll be very comfortable out there in the left field position. And on the same day, Dylan Cease will move from the West Coast to the East Coast as he is going to the Mets for $33 million a year, 7-year deal, $231 million. After coming off a not-so-hot year where he threw a 4.2 ERA and 175 innings of work, he will have a chance to shine in the Big Apple and see if he can bring himself back to his Cy Young candidacy standards like he was a few years ago. And then a couple days later, Ryan Helsley will stay in the division, going from the Cardinals to the Cubs on a 1-year deal for $16 million. The 31-year-old was able to amass 40 saves last season, coming off 49 the year before, an ERA just right at 3 with 59 strikeouts. The high heat throwing pitcher will go to Chicago. But before we finish out free agency and the offseason, we have to go to the draft lottery. So let's go ahead and get into it. We have a 1.1% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. I think we kind of did ourselves a disservice by playing so well this year. I was anticipating coming into this having a pretty high pick in this draft, but we'll see how it pans out. Let's go ahead and see how we do and see if we move up some. Hopefully we don't move down any. If we move down any, I will be pretty upset. But moving up maybe 1 or 2 rungs would be very, very advantageous, but we stay in the same spot. But there's a ton of movement at the top. The Nationals dropped 6 positions, even though they had one of the best percentages to get that number 1 pick, and they will have the 7th pick after having the worst record in the majors. And that is unfortunate. They did have the first pick last year, so it's not the end of the world. They'll still get a good player at that 7 slot. That's where we were this past year. But the Rockies, White Sox, Reds will round out your top 3. The Padres moved up 3 spots, and then the Cardinals jumped 5 to that number 5 spot, and you can see the rest of it here. Honestly, not too terrible for us. 12 isn't the worst in the world. You'll still be able to get a good player here and there. So hopefully we'll be able to find somebody in next year's draft class that fits our system really well. And the Pirates are still making some crazy moves, man. Lawrence Butler, one of the best players on the Athletics roster, will be moving to Pittsburgh for Bubba Chandler and Tamar Johnson, another top prospect, a really young second baseman. Extremely interesting decision by the Athletics. I'm not really sure that's a great return there because Butler is 25 years old and they had him signed for 7 seasons. I just don't understand that trade whatsoever, but you know, the MLB The Show will MLB The Show sometimes. And finally, after about 5 weeks, Vladdy will make his decision for an 8-year deal for $215 million, which is a steep discount off what he just got offered literally 2 or 3 days ago. He will be heading to the West Coast, to Seattle, to join J-Rod out there at first base. 8 years. He had a decent year this year, 313, 532 slugging for a 920 OPS. Very, very good numbers. Not just decent, very, very good numbers there. He was another all-star appearance, his 5th in a row. Also was a silver slugger. So, you know, coming off a very good year, the Mariners pick up an absolute dog at first base. He's only 26, so he'll be 34 when this contract ends. Very, very good pickup by the Mariners. And coming up to this contract decision, our second big reveal of the episode, the last one of the episode before we get into the next regular season. And we will sign him. Aaron Savale will be coming to Nashville from Milwaukee. The 22nd ranked free agent will be coming to the Stars. Honestly, this free agency class just wasn't too high. They had about 2 or 3 big names, then outside of that, it was kind of pretty mediocre. So we kind of had to play a little pick 'em, choose 'em there, here and there. But I think we actually panned out really well. I think our roster is primed for a good season this year. maybe not necessarily a wild card spot, but I think we'll be in contention all year long. So let's go ahead and get to the end of the regular season and see how our roster pans out for the start of the 2026 season. But before that, Zach Gallen will be heading east to Texas from the D-backs. He will be heading to the Rangers for a decent chunk of change, 7-year, $189 million deal, 27 on the dot per season. Decent year last year, below a 3.5 ERA. The 30-year-old has 6 years of service time, and he will be at 37 when this one ends. And 33 starts this year. He was 17-9, almost 200 innings pitched with 152 strikeouts. Not too shabby. A good pickup by the Rangers. Holy crap. And this is the biggest deal of the offseason. Kyle Tucker will be going to the LA Dodgers. An insane turn of events. I wouldn't imagine a million years that a former Astro will head to California to play for the Dodgers after having a 277 average last season, almost 40 home runs, just under 100 RBIs. The 29-year-old will be making $32.2 million per year for 9 seasons. No deferrals in MLB The Show, so that's all going to be paid out by the end of it. The lefty has just above that 6-year service time. After going from the Houston Astros his career, he got traded to the Cubs last year. Had a decent year, nothing too crazy. Definitely a dip in his production from the years before. He did have right above a 900 OPS, which is slightly down from his year before when he had almost 1,000. But that will bring us in end of the offseason and to the end of spring training. We went ahead and simulated through it and kind of got to the end so we could look at some of the top performers during spring training. But in the next episode, we'll jump right into opening day 2026. So stay tuned for that in episode 8. But before that, let's go ahead and see who did well during the spring training season. First off the top is going to be Colt Keith, our youngster second baseman. He had a great spring training year, 70 at-bats, 6 home runs, 10 RBIs with a 3.14 average. If he can continue to keep that average up around that 300 mark, he'll be an exceptional player for us. He hasn't really prospered here in the last 2 seasons, in 2024 with Detroit and then last year with us, batting 260 or below. So we really want him to drive that up. His slugging was about the same though, so he was hitting for a little bit more power last season. So that's good to see, but he needs to drive that average up for sure. And then going through, you can see Michael Conforto. He was able to get some showcasing here as well. 54 at-bats. The average is pretty abysmal, 222. Looking at last year in 34 games, 125 at-bats. He batted above 300 with a 544 slugging with a 918 OPS. So hopefully he can continue those numbers going into the regular season. Caratini followed him at 225. Again, not great. And then Josh Naylor, our other free agency signee, the first baseman, the top player on our roster, hasn't had a great go of it so far. 245 average to start his tenure here in spring training with the Stars. Not too far off what his last year's numbers were, so maybe that's kind of just to be expected. But we would love to see that OPS drop higher than 700, but we'll have to see when he gets into the regular season. He gets a full year here in Nashville, so we're hopeful, fingers crossed, for him to do pretty well this year. And then lastly, Jock Peterson actually stepped it up with 54 at-bats and 315 average. Didn't hit for as much power as we would like, but the 315 average is appreciated nonetheless. And then surprisingly, Edgar Rosario, almost a 300 average and 68 plate appearances. Good for him down in that 8th spot at the end of the lineup. And then switching over to our pitching rotation, you can see here, we'll just quickly scroll through some of our starters. Edward Cabrera had a good start to the year at 20 innings pitched, 3.15 ERA, not too shabby. Definitely an improvement over last season. And then our lone signee from free agency in the starting rotation, he actually played here in the bullpen, came out of the bullpen for us in spring training, just to give some of the younger guys some work. 18 innings pitched, 2.5 ERA, very, very good performance for him. Definitely an improvement over last season. If he can keep it around that 2.5 to 2.8 ERA through the regular season this year, he'll be an exceptional signee. But that will bring us to the end of episode 7. I hope you all enjoyed all of our additions to this new team and the moves around the league. It was an interesting offseason. We saw a lot of big names go to different teams, and we were able to add a few solid pieces into our roster. And I think we're going to be on a good footing going into 2026. Hopefully we can play above our rank. We're the 23rd ranked team in the MLB. Hopefully we can do a little bit better than that in placing down the line. But I appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed. Leave a like below and hit that subscription button if you're new here. I would be really appreciative. But I'll see you all in episode 7. And a huge shout out to Chris, our very first premium channel member. Thanks for all your support, man. It's really appreciated.